Hello everyone. So let's talk about what I learned in 2023. So 2023 was a difficult year. Let's talk about some basic things that I learned. So one of the basic things that I learned is that I can I can continue forward without knowing exactly where I'm going. Like I said, this is the first few things are going to be basic. I don't need to know exactly where my spiritual path is going, where my school life is going, or where my future spiritual aspirations are going. I don't need my ducks lined up in a row in order to follow them to my destination. And I think that needing everything to be lined up, needing everything to happen just as you want it, just as you'd like it, leads one into one fear after another, one pain after another, one uncertainty after uncertainty. And if you're afraid of each uncertainty, then you're just it's like you're going around a Monopoly board from every little square, and you're afraid again and again and again and again and again. As long as you have some kind of certainty in your life as far as food goes, as far as housing goes, you don't need to be in a place where you're afraid all the time. You can give up this fear to a grander trust that everything will work out, and that's not a bad thing. Once again, if you have shelter and you have food, and you're not in a situation where you're being abused or being, physically damaged in any way, then you don't have to know where all these little lines connect. You can jump blindly a lot of the time. As long as you're making educated guesses, you can jump blindly from one square to another around the board. Another basic thing that I learned, it's okay to not kind of just blare information or blare, sensory input into my mind. It's okay to just be me, to just think from one thought to another, to not always have an ear pod in. Once again, these are basic things. To not always have an ear pod in, to be okay with just waiting and be bored, to be okay with just laying down before you go to sleep without doing anything beforehand or eating right before you go to sleep and then jumping into bed, but just laying there and thinking about life. That's okay too. It's okay to be alone with yourself, to be alone with your mind, and to gaze within yourself and not really be doing anything, but also not thinking at the same time, if that makes any sense. Another basic thing I think I learned is that, this kind of leads into a bigger thing, but we can go into bigger things as well. Value those that you have near you that are friends and family, as much as you can while they're here. It's no secret that I lost my best friend Josh in 2023, and we were best friends for 9, 10 years, at least 9 years. And what hurts me is that I feel like I'm maybe the only person who really knew him deep down. I mean, I can't speak for his family. I kind of know his family. I'm not super close to them. But as far as like who he was, what he thought about, what he contemplated, he started getting into spirituality because I kind of got him into, Hinduism, the idea of the avatars and very spiritual works, Zen texts, Buddhist texts, started listening to podcasts and audiobooks. 101 Zen Stories was his favorite audiobook that he listened to again and again and again. 101 Zen Stories, there's a few renditions of it that you can get on Audible, or you can get on iTunes books or audiobooks, and you can also get the books. But it's 101 Zen Stories, and these Zen stories are, they always lead to realizations and little bits of enlightenment that really, they fall apart if you try to explain them, but as these little stories go by and then you hit that moment, and that's typical of Zen. It's just like these little moments of bliss, of happiness, of enlightenment. He loved 101 Zen Stories. But yeah, he was a fellow schizophrenic, and he really liked playing Elden Ring, and he liked playing Skyrim before that as well as one of the games. he really liked, he played Star Wars: The Old Republic. He really liked games, and he really liked listening to spiritual audiobooks. And he liked, first and foremost, helping other people, doing chores for either his grandmother, either for his mom, for helping me filming during my YouTube videos, a lot of the YouTube videos that y'all have seen, and helping me out during rituals. And he developed a great dedication to the Divine Mother Kali, that he really felt deep within himself in a way that I'm not sure if anybody can really understand. Maybe me a good bit, but he had a deep dedication to Kali in a way that most people, I suppose, can't really understand that don't know our Divine Mother. But he was a wonderful individual. He was a great person. And he always wanted to help, and he always wanted to give gifts. He would love wrapping out Christmas gifts or gifts for people's birthday and giving them to them. He didn't make a lot of friends. He made some friends through me, but that became like a brother. Like Frank became like a brother to him. Like Frank is a brother to me, and he had a problem with twitching. As a fellow schizophrenic, some of us we have problems that are more obvious than others. My problems are not especially obvious, especially since I've improved my social skills. My social skills at the end of high school were awful. I'm 32 now, so I've been doing YouTube and talking to a lot of people since then. So I've developed social skills over time, and generally our social skills are very bad. But him having that body twitching disorder was very difficult for him to make friends and be confident in himself. And that was a constant pain for him. But he made wonderful strides. He learned to meditate properly, sitting with his hands on his knees, to clear his mind, to breathe properly, which is hard for somebody who smoked a lot for many years. He stopped smoking at the end for months. And it's incredibly hard for somebody to meditate who has the body twitching disorder that he had. But when he would meditate, or when he would be calm, he would actually twitch very, very little. And he learned to love meditation. He could meditate for, on average, I'd say from 10 to 20 minutes, but sometimes he'd meditate for even longer, which is incredible for somebody with this disorder. But all this to say, he was very important to me, but all this to say that value those near you that need the attention most. I will always, blame myself for not hanging out with them that week, and I should have hung out with them that week. I could have. I thought I could leave him alone for a week. We saw each other, a couple times a week for years and years and years, and we'd not see each other for a week or two here and there, but I always feel like I failed him. But, don't just love the dead. Love those who are still alive, family and friends. And be nice to those who you think don't have friends. I guess one of my good qualities is I've always tried to do that, and that's why I've made friends with the people that I've made friends with. Josh, most prominent, but other people as well. But always be nice to those who you don't feel like know a lot of people, or have trouble communicating, or don't have a lot of friends. Just do it. You don't really need a reason. But care for those around you. Another thing that I learned that's slightly connected to this, regarding the Divine Mother Kali, I realized this year that I don't really have any doubt that the Divine Mother Kali exists, or that she's my Divine Mother, or that the vision that she has given me of where I'll go to for a time before coming back to this earth when I die. I realized this year, because I didn't really think about it as being a possibility, that it's not true. This might seem very strange, like, why don't you have doubts about your beliefs? But it took me a while to come to Hinduism, to come to this ideology. Nobody convinced me. It was through study, research, practice of meditation, practice of spiritual austerities. And I eventually came to this certainty that I realized this year that I had, that, the Divine Mother Kali, I don't have the doubts about her existing, or about, the vision that she showed me, or the connection that I have with her, or my love for her. There's just no doubt there. And I'm somebody who has a high burden of proof for a lot of things, actually for damn near everything, and who doesn't believe things off the cuff. Parents are atheists, very critical of religion and very logical. And I myself, am pretty logical. And to where if I see something and it's pretty supernatural, I won't immediately think it's supernatural. I'll stare at it for a while and be like, this is probably something else. but, but you know, based on all my experiences, and you know, I've talked about in other videos of my experience with the Divine Mother, and you know, how much I love her, how much I'm dedicated towards her. It doesn't feel like faith, but I think there's a faith element to it for sure. It doesn't feel like faith to me, because it took me a while to come to, you know, I'm 32, and I've been with the Divine Mother for, you know, a good 10 years or so, but it didn't become as devout or as sure, I realized this year, and then until the last few years, to where it became like a solid connection where I just don't have doubt. And my fear, my fear is not what wraps around my faith or supports my faith. I know that there's a whole lot of people that say they believe in Jesus or God or this or that because they're afraid of hell. And that is not what supports my love or my faith. Fear should never support your faith or your belief. That should not be one of its founding principles. And too many people are convinced of things out of fear, whether it be political or dogmatic religious or spiritual or society. There's a whole lot of things that others try to convince you to support with a foundation of your own fears of what happens if I don't. Don't let that be why you're a good person, why you do anything, why you believe whatever you believe, why you follow whatever you follow, or whatever political philosophy you have. Don't let fear support who you are. And if fear has to support who you are in order for it to be who you are, then you might want to reconsider who you are. The Divine Mother Kali, she is my ultimate reality. She is source for me. She is, you could say, the supreme ultimate God for me. I am a Shakta, after all. And I honestly just recently realized I was a Shakta in the last few years. I didn't claim it. I didn't grab onto this, be like, ooh, yes, I'm a Shakta now. Over time, I developed a certain way of thinking and a certain affiliation with the Divine Mother and a belief of her, you know, omnipotent, or not omnipotence, but omnipresence. And then recently, you know, I learned the term Shakta. I'm like, oh, I'm that. I didn't realize I was that. I just developed these, you know, beliefs and feelings and these understandings separately from a label for it, which is, I think, what everybody should do. You shouldn't find the label first and then justify everything to the label. You should find all your beliefs, what you truly believe, who you truly are, before finding the label. And if you find a label, you're like, oh, yeah, that's me. I can take it. Because I'm not a person who likes labels, but I found it after way after I started to be before I was this before I found the label. Basically, is what I'm saying. And I think lastly, I didn't mean for this to be this long, but lastly, what I learned from 2023 is that, you know, I've always had this element to myself where I don't really want to be alive. And let me explain. So I didn't realize this until 2023, that's why I'm explaining it, but I do have a memory from when I was a baby, and I think I was in an incubator, because I was in an incubator for a few weeks because I was so premature, born so premature, but I remember not really having my eyes open all the way and just seeing outlines of things and not being aware of my lower body, just being aware of my arms and kind of my lungs a little bit, of my head. And I remember reaching out in two directions to just keep on trying to grab something, but there was just nothing there. It's a little bit of a blanket under me maybe, but I just had the urge to reach and grab, and it just felt like I was in some kind of box. And my sense, you know, it sounded like I was underwater. My sense of hearing wasn't developed very well. I couldn't really see anything super well. It was almost like just outlines. And everything, there was nothing in grabbing distance, besides maybe like a little blanket under me. But as I was grabbing from left to right, I didn't know why I had the urge to grab or why I was grabbing in two directions. I just had the urge to grab, and indescribable. And I didn't have any words in my head. And I couldn't really hear other words because it sounded like I was underwater, but I couldn't hear I didn't have any words in my head. And I remember clearly my consciousness. I wasn't thinking in words because I didn't know what words were. And I remember seeing the outline, just the very outline of my mother as I looked up out of this weird box thing that I was in that nothing could really get in. All these strange sensations. I think that it was me in the incubator, I think. And it was a feeling of loneliness and it was a feeling of vulnerability and loneliness, but I didn't know it was lonely. I didn't know I was vulnerable because I didn't really know anything. I didn't have the words or concepts or ideas in my head, but I remember just trying to reach out. Not knowing what I was reaching for, but just having the urge to reach, try to grab. It was a sensation. It was more animalistic than, like an idea. And the reason, and I didn't realize this until recently and until this year, but the reason why it's an incredibly sad memory for me, and it's a vulnerable memory, and it's a memory that's isolated, kind of lonely, without having the word lonely. But the reason that it troubles me and makes me sad is because I realized, in the last 4 months actually, is that in a certain regard, I'm still doing that. I am that. I have that as who I am, as my feeling, more so than anything else, but on a bigger level. Because while I've met so many people, while I've had good friends, one of them is lost recently, the best one. And while I, have relationships with family, not close relationships, and honestly not close relationships with any human being, but while I have relationships, and while I've, loved women, been in relationships with women, 14 sexual partners, if you must know, and that's with very, very bad social skills for most of that, and being completely oblivious to subtle cues, so who knows how many I would have had if I'd had better social skills most of that time and was privy to social cues. But why that memory of me being a baby in an incubator makes me so sad, and because of vulnerability, because of its loneliness, why it makes me so sad is because it's still true for me on a macro level, where I have not found somebody to spend my life with that feels like something that I have grabbed to myself and gives me comfort. And it's not purely the physical. It's more on a bigger emotional and spiritual level. Because I've been in a relationship with one woman that I had a spiritual connection with. The rest of them was just physical, but kind of emotional, but we didn't really know it. At least I didn't know it. That's what relationships were. But I'm still searching for that someone on a more spiritual and emotional, spiritual level, or grab to me. That's just the other half of myself. I haven't found that person to grab onto, that woman. And that memory makes me sad because that's still what I am, just on a completely different level. And most people have relationships that are pretty empty. My own parents, for instance, like my whole childhood, shallow relationship, married early on, never really had any deep thoughts or deep connection. And intelligence is not necessarily depth. Mother, very intelligent. Father, not. But despite my mother being very intelligent, she's not a very deep person. Spiritually. I guess you could say emotionally and intellectually, because just because you're intelligent does not mean you have depth to what you care about or who you are and understanding yourself. I seek a deeper connection than anything that I've seen, even my own parents or the other relationships that I've seen. I've seen some people, I've met some people where they're like, I'm like, they have a spiritual connection, they have an emotional connection that's really deep. They don't have to be even be smart. I've met some people that just have a deep connection. That's what I'm seeking. And I still feel like I'm in that box without it, in that incubator. Just trying to grab in all directions, searching, but not finding. So in 2024, I know, honestly, what I need. What I want, at least. Pretty sure what I need. But I've said that I've needed things in the past that I didn't need. But yeah, I'm looking for somebody. I think I'll know when I find her, but maybe not. That's why I'm leaving my mind open and my communications open. But it's been a hard year. But it's also been a year that I've learned a lot of things. And I'll keep on going to Josh's grave that I designated for him because he was cremated. So he doesn't have a grave, and honestly, I do want to be cremated as well. But I want my ashes scattered in a graveyard, one of my favorite ones. The one at Old Hall Cemetery in Louisville. But I'll keep visiting his grave, speaking to him, and making offerings to all the dead and saying mantras in the graveyard. I feel so connected, and it feels like my purpose is there in graveyards when I'm serving the dead, when I'm helping that energy merge with Mother Earth and helping, the part of the consciousness that lingers on as a ghost, might not be a full-fledged ghost, and the soul, and making prayers and offerings to the souls in their journey as they move on from life to life until they reach the source themselves, the Divine Mother. But yeah, I will keep those in my heart who I no longer have around me, and I highly recommend that you seek a deeper level of connection, and you value those around you and help them, and seek out those who you feel like don't have any other friends or anybody to really help them. That's my recommendation. At any rate, this is the end of the video. Feel free to put down your realizations from 2023 in the comment section below. Like this video, helps traffic to the channel, and also leaving comments helps that traffic to the channel. Feel free to share this wherever you like, but yeah, I'd like to hear what you learned in 2023. If you made it this far, let me know. If you watched me this far, I highly appreciate you and for listening to me this long. But yeah, just let me know in the comment section. Let me know what you learned, or just say, hey, I listened to that long, the whole video. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been interesting. I hope that 2023 was a good year for you. Hopefully it's better than mine. At the very least, I hope you learned something. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. I hope all of you have a wonderful 2024.